At the time the novel was published, a little over 7 years ago, 2007, I had finished reading a book aloud to my 5 and 7-year-old boys, and I was looking for another, and I literally Googled read aloud books, 6-year-old boys. Up pops a New York Times review, fresh off of the Times in the past days, of Adam Rex's book, The True Meaning of Smek Day. And Adam is a kid's book illustrator of some renown with many books published, but this was his first novel. Ordered it, read it, and as I've said now to others, I tucked the boys in after 2 chapters on a Friday night and then cheated on them and stayed up till 2 in the morning because I had to know what happened next. I fell in love with the characters and the tone.
And Suzanne, maybe you can pick it up from there. What I understand that the author was involved with you guys in terms of adapting it, and I guess what was the process like of just getting this off the ground in the early stages?
Well, we took a little bit of a leap from the book in that, Tim really wanted to make it a global story, and the book kind of covered the States, and we wanted to make it about the whole world. So we leapt from there, and then Adam tends to be a tiny bit darker and a little more cynical than we wanted it to go. So even though there's so many things in the book that are still in the film, like literally verbatim things that were in the book, so that's kind of what we did with it.
Now, last year, before Mr. Peabody and Sherman, there was a short that was shown called Almost Home, and I just wonder what the relationship is between that and this, if there is one. I just thought it was kind of neat.
We live in an environment today when having an original movie not based on a huge selling book or an existing franchise or a superhero is frankly a scary proposition. And these movies, animated movies, are not inexpensive films. And so the thought, how do you introduce characters to the crazy world of these aliens called the Boov? We got very excited about the idea of let's do a short. Let's do it long enough out from the movie that we can have fun introducing the tone of the characters. And so the short kind of chronicles Captain Smek and the Boov's many attempts to find a home world being pursued by their enemy, the Gorg. And so, as well as every other sort of living creature in the universe, the Boov just have a very hard time of it. So it was a really a fun, outrageous way to introduce audiences to a good section of the film.
Another thing I'm sure a lot of people are wondering is how you came to these voice actors in light of the fact that I think with the exception of Steve Martin for a day on The Prince of Egypt, none of them had done animated movies, voice work previously. Rihanna, Jim Parsons, it seems now like, oh, of course you would have to go for them, but at the time, what was the process that led you to them?
Well, I think Tim always felt like Jim Parsons was the guy for the alien, and the minute you hear him, you realize there's just no one else that could do that.
There's music to his voice, and when you close your eyes, as we do in animation, if you watch some of these actors, you're going to fall in love with them, their charisma, their power. But without naming any names in particular, some actors have a voice like this, and it's really, really intense, and you fall in love with them, but you would never want to animate that. Jim does not have that problem.
And talk well. We'll pick up with Rihanna in this way if we can, which is that Suzanne, you've obviously got a rich background in animation, but also in music, and so I just have to ask: was it a thought it would be nice to cast someone who is also going to be able to contribute a lot of music to the film, as was the case with Rihanna, or was that just a perk of the way it worked out?
I think it was just like the whole thing is kind of magical, I have to say, the way everything came together. And, we had this girl of color that we decided came from the islands, and then Rihanna's name came up, and the music sort of evolved in a certain kind of way, and everything was just sort of fell together. I was a folk singer. I didn't, have any ideas about what exactly this was going to be,
But Suzanne undersells herself there. I'm just a folk singer, says the touring musician with multiple albums. The fact that Suzanne had that insight into singer-songwriters and had a pretty sophisticated understanding both on the creative side and, frankly, the Byzantine business world. She really was the champion and helped corral a huge number of songs flowed through
like
Suzanne's
50.
hands, 40, 50 songs.
Yeah, that we really seriously considered. But listen, it was a learning experience for everybody.
Were some of these Rihanna songs, forgive my ignorance, but were they previously out there, or some of them written for the film? Or I just think the music is such a great part of this movie, and it really kind of keeps the energy level up more than in some movies and all of that. So
well, even before Rihanna was involved, we were exploring a more sophisticated use of pop tunes. At the same time, I can't stand needle drop, where things come to a shattering halt for a song. I did feel that the music a 12-year-old girl listens to is pop music, and it felt very odd to me to have a 80-piece orchestra playing in back of this young girl's journey. And so from the start, we were thinking of it. When Rihanna got involved, and her team, Stargate, Mikkel and Tor, songwriter producers, we realized we really had a significant opportunity to up it from existing tunes to, basically all of them except for one are original, written for the movie. So it really is sort of a musical in which the characters don't open their mouths and sing, but every word and every note was written by people who watched the movie and responded to it.
Wow. Well, I got to ask a geeky question, which is that I understand this is the second time, only the second time that DreamWorks Animation has employed this platform, Apollo. Other time, I think, was How to Train Your Dragon 2. What does that actually mean for you guys when you're making the movie? What does this enable you to do that wasn't necessarily possible as well before?
Well, on the creative front, these are new tools that allow an animator to much more intuitively grab what they want, move it, spin the character around. And, animation is still, to me, the strangest of art forms. And I started as an animator doing Captain Crunch commercials back in Chicago. What I love about animation is whether you're a singer or a dancer or a painter, you are in immediate contact with your art. Animators work in still frames, but their art is motion. So the quickest you can go from a pose, a pose, a pose, and then seeing it move, the more you can get your hands on the actual art, which is acting and emotional performance. This new software allowed the animators to go from doing about 3 seconds a week to north of 7 or 8 for the fast animators.
Just from an efficiency standpoint, it was incredible. And just what you could see evolving in the moment was so helpful in just kind of continuing to discover the characters.
Fantastic. And why was 3D important for this? I think it does. There's a lot of, when you're traveling between planets and all that, it makes sense. But was that something you felt very strongly about? You guys?
It's the last picture I directed was Over the Hedge, which was in a moment before the technology of 3D became, really powerful. And I loved the opportunity for 3D because I do think it's immersive. To me, 3D for the visual is like surround sound for music and sound effects. If you're paying attention to it, it might be broken, but it can be a very immersive experience. And luckily for us, bubbles and flying cars, with things that don't have contact with the edge of the screen, they're particularly delightful in 3D.
Absolutely.
I think we were even surprised when we saw it. We were like, wow, that's really cool.